The massive space station Nexus Prime floated in the void between stars, its crystalline spires catching the light of distant suns. Inside the central chamber, representatives from across the galaxy sat in a perfect circle. The air hummed with tension as dozens of different species breathed different atmospheres through their environmental suits. Ambassador Zeth Kara of the Vorthan Empire stood at the center of the circle. Her forearms moved in precise gestures as she activated the holographic display. The other ambassadors leaned forward, their various eyes, sensors, and detection organs focusing on the images that appeared in the air. "What you are about to see," Zeth Kara said. Her voice translated into dozens of languages simultaneously, "will change everything we thought we knew about galactic development." The hologram showed a small blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. It looked peaceful from space, with white clouds swirling over vast oceans and brown continents. But as the image zoomed closer, the representatives began to see things that made them shift uncomfortably in their seats. Cities covered the land masses like glowing webs. Lights blazed even on the dark side of the planet, showing that the inhabitants were active around the clock. Ships moved across the oceans in organized patterns while flying machines crossed the skies in endless streams. "This is Sol 3, Zeth Kara continued, "the third planet from its star. Our monitoring stations have been watching this system for what the inhabitants call 50 Earth years. What we discovered defies every model of species development we have." The hologram changed to show close-up images of the planet's inhabitants. They walked on two legs, had smooth skin mostly without fur or scales, and possessed only two eyes. They looked remarkably fragile compared to most galactic species. No natural armor, no claws, no venom, no thick hide. Just soft, vulnerable flesh. "They call themselves humans," Zeth Kara said. "At first glance, they appear to be standard carbon-based life forms. Unremarkable in almost every way. But do not let their appearance fool you." Council xenobiologist Dr. Meltanto, whose crystalline body chimed softly when she moved, raised one of her three hands. "What makes them special?" "They look like typical developing mammals." Zeth Kara's expression grew serious. "Watch this." The hologram showed a timeline of human development. 50 years ago, humans had barely achieved flight. Their fastest vehicles moved slower than most galactic species could run. They communicated through primitive electromagnetic signals and burned fossil fuels for energy. "Standard development pattern," commented General Korax of the Hegemony Defense Force. His massive, armored form dominated his section of the circle. "Nothing unusual so far." "Wait," Zeth Kara said. The timeline jumped forward 20 years. Suddenly the humans had split the atom and created weapons that could destroy entire cities. They had sent vehicles into space and established permanent stations orbiting their planet. Their communication networks spanned the globe instantly. "Accelerated but not unprecedented," Dr. Meltanto observed. "Keep watching." Another 20 years passed in the hologram. Now humans had walked on their planet's moon. They had sent unmanned probes to every planet in their system. Their global communication network had evolved into something they called the Internet, connecting every human on the planet. Most shocking of all, they had begun to change their planet's climate through their industrial activities. "This is concerning," admitted Ambassador Velith of the Peaceful Worlds Coalition. Her gentle, flower-like appearance hid one of the sharpest minds in the galaxy. "The speed of their technological advancement is unusual. But what makes them Category Red material?" Zeth Kara waved her hands and the hologram changed again. Now it showed scenes from human history. Battlefields covered with the bodies of millions. Cities burning under bombardment from the sky. Weapons that could kill from impossible distances. But then the image shifted. The same species that created such destruction was shown building hospitals, rescuing survivors from natural disasters, and sending aid to strangers on the other side of their planet. Children of different skin colors played together. Scientists from enemy nations worked side by side on peaceful projects. "I do not understand," said Speaker Gith of the Collective Mind. The insectoid being's antennae twitched in confusion. "Are they violent or peaceful?" "That is exactly the problem," Zeth Kara replied. "They are both. Our analysts have studied human behavior for decades, and we cannot predict their actions. They are capable of incredible kindness and unthinkable cruelty, often at the same time." She gestured again, and the hologram showed more recent events. Humans rescuing animals from burning buildings, even risking their lives for creatures that served no practical purpose. Humans donating organs to complete strangers. Humans adopting children from other continents and treating them as their own. But the very same humans had created weapons that could destroy their entire planet several times over. They maintained standing armies equipped with devastating firepower. They had developed biological and chemical weapons that could wipe out entire populations. They have no natural predators on their planet, Dr. Meltanto noted, studying the data streams flowing past her crystalline form. That is unusual. Not just unusual, Zethkara corrected. Impossible. Every successful species develops alongside predators that keep their population in check and drive their evolution. But humans eliminated all threats to their survival. They hunted their planet's megafauna to extinction. They domesticated the animals they found useful and eliminated the ones they did not. How did they manage that without advanced technology? General Corax demanded. Persistence, Zethkara said simply. They are persistence predators. They chase their prey until it collapses from exhaustion. No other species on their planet can match their endurance. But more than that, they work together in ways we have never seen. The hologram showed ancient humans hunting massive creatures 10 times their size. Instead of using strength or speed, they used teamwork, tools, and intelligence. They tracked their prey for days, working in coordinated groups to bring down animals that should have been impossible to kill. And they never stopped. Zethkara continued. Every challenge made them stronger. Ice ages that should have wiped them out instead drove them to develop agriculture and permanent settlements. Diseases that killed millions led them to develop medicine that now keeps most of them healthy for nearly a century. Wars that should have destroyed their civilization instead drove them to create international laws and peacekeeping organizations. Ambassador Velith spoke up. Surely their aggression makes them unsuitable for galactic contact. We cannot allow a violent species to spread beyond their system. That is what makes them so dangerous, Zethkara replied. They are not simply aggressive. Watch this. The hologram showed a human settlement being attacked by raiders. The defenders fought with desperate courage to protect their families. But when the battle ended and the attackers were captured, the same humans who had killed to defend their homes now provided medical care to their wounded enemies. They fed prisoners from their own limited supplies and eventually released them with warnings not to return. They form emotional attachments to other species, Dr. Meltanto observed, her chimes becoming more urgent. Our reports show humans adopting creatures that by all logic should be their prey or predators. They keep small carnivores as companions and show them affection. They risk their lives to rescue animals during natural disasters. Pack bonding, General Corax rumbled. A useful survival strategy. No, Zethkara said firmly. This goes far beyond pack bonding. They form emotional connections with anything that shows even slight signs of intelligence or need. Our deep space monitoring posts have recorded humans attempting to communicate with automated probe signals. They anthropomorphize their machines, giving them names and personalities. The implications hung heavy in the chamber. A species that could form instant, emotional bonds with anything they encountered would be either the greatest ally or the most dangerous enemy the galaxy had ever seen. What is their current technological level? Asked Commissioner Yalth of the Trade Federation. That is perhaps the most disturbing aspect, Zethkara replied. 10 years ago, they achieved controlled nuclear fusion. 5 years ago, they established permanent colonies on 3 different worlds in their system. 2 years ago, they launched their first interstellar probe. Shocked silence filled the chamber. Impossible, General Corax stated flatly. No species develops that quickly without outside assistance. Our analysis confirms it, Dr. Meltanto said, her form now chiming almost constantly with agitation. Their rate of technological advancement is accelerating. At current rates, they will achieve faster than light travel within 2 decades. 50 years ahead of our most optimistic projections, Zethkara added. How are they doing it? Ambassador Velith asked. They share information freely, Zethkara explained. Any human can access the collected knowledge of their entire species through their global network. When one human discovers something new, millions of other humans immediately begin working to improve and expand on that discovery. They do not hoard knowledge for competitive advantage. That makes no evolutionary sense, Speaker Gith protested. Knowledge is power. Species that share vital information with competitors do not survive. Humans do not see other humans as competitors, Zethkara said. They see them as pack members. All of them. Their entire species is one vast pack, and they will sacrifice themselves to protect any member of it. She gestured, and the hologram showed humans rushing into burning buildings to save strangers. Humans jumping into dangerous waters to rescue people they had never met. Humans sharing food with starving populations on the other side of their planet. But they will also destroy anyone who threatens their pack, she continued. The image shifted to show human military responses to attacks on their civilians. The retaliation was swift, overwhelming, and absolutely ruthless. They have a concept they call total war, Zethkara explained. When sufficiently threatened, they mobilize their entire civilization for warfare. Every human becomes a potential combatant. They convert their entire industrial capacity to weapon production. They accept massive casualties as long as they achieve victory. Surely no species can sustain such efforts for long, General Korak said. Humans maintained total war for 6 Earth years during their global conflict, which they call World War II. Their industrial output increased during the war, not decreased. They produced more food, more weapons, and more vehicles while fighting on multiple continents than they had during peacetime. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. There is more, Zethkara continued. They have a disturbing tendency to never give up. When faced with impossible odds, other species surrender or retreat. Humans fight harder. They have a saying, victory or death. They mean it literally. Dr. Meltanto's chiming reached a crescendo. Their psychological profiles are completely unprecedented. They show extreme loyalty to abstract concepts like justice, freedom, and honor. They will die for ideas that provide no survival advantage. And yet, Ambassador Veleth noted, you said they also show extreme compassion. Yes, the same human who will fight to the death against an enemy will risk everything to save that enemy's child. They have another saying, there are no innocent civilians, only innocent people. They make distinctions between combatants and non-combatants that override their survival instincts. Zethkara paused, letting the contradictions sink in. They are completely unpredictable, she concluded. Our behavioral models cannot account for their decision-making processes. They act on emotion as much as logic. They make decisions that benefit strangers at their own expense. They sacrifice themselves for future generations they will never meet. What do you recommend? General Korax asked. The Threat Assessment Committee has reviewed all available data, Zethkara replied. This species represents a completely unknown variable in galactic civilization. They could become our greatest allies or our most dangerous enemies. We cannot predict which. Then we destroy them now while they are contained to one system, General Korax declared. That assumes we could destroy them, Zethkara replied. Our analysis suggests that any attack on their homeworld would result in immediate retaliation. They already possess weapons capable of sterilizing entire planets, and if even a few humans survived and escaped, they would dedicate their entire civilization to revenge. Then what do you propose? Ambassador Veleth asked. Zethkara looked around the circle of representatives. For the first time in galactic history, we are recommending that a species be designated Category Red before they achieve interstellar flight. Humanity represents an unprecedented threat to galactic stability, not because they are evil, but because they are completely unpredictable. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would be designated Category Red, the highest threat level in galactic law. No contact would be permitted. No trade would be allowed. If humans appeared beyond their home system, they would be treated as a clear and present danger to galactic civilization. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, none of them knew that human deep space telescopes had already detected the Nexus Prime station. Human scientists were analyzing its construction and trying to determine who had built it. And in a small laboratory on Earth, a young human physicist had just achieved a breakthrough that would make faster-than-light travel possible within 5 years, not 20. The galaxy had made its decision about humanity. Soon humanity would make its decision about the galaxy. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Endeavour, watching the stars shift outside the viewports. 6 months had passed since humanity achieved faster-than-light travel, and this was only the 3rd mission beyond the solar system. The excitement of finally reaching the stars still made her heart race every time she gave the order to jump. "Captain," called Lieutenant Rodriguez from the communication station. "We're picking up a distress signal." Sarah turned toward him. "From Earth?" "No, ma'am. The signal is different, not human in origin." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew this moment would come eventually, but they had hoped for better circumstances for humanity's first contact with alien life. "Can you translate it?" Sarah asked. "The computer is working on it, but the signal structure is unlike anything in our databases. However, the mathematical patterns suggest it's definitely a call for help." Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Every decision she made in the next few minutes could determine humanity's relationship with whatever species had sent that signal. "Where is it coming from?" "Bearing 127 Mark 15, distance approximately 2 million kilometers. It's weak, like the transmitter is damaged or running on low power. Take us there, Mr. Kim. Full speed." The Endeavor's engines hummed as the ship changed course. Sarah activated the ship's intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. We have detected what appears to be an alien distress signal. This may be humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. I want everyone on their best behavior and ready for anything. Department heads to the bridge immediately." Within minutes, Sarah's senior staff had assembled. Dr. Martinez, the xenobiologist, looked excited despite the serious situation. Commander Thompson, her first officer, wore his usual calm expression. Chief Engineer O'Brien appeared concerned about the ship's systems, while Security Chief Walker looked ready for trouble. "Report," Sarah ordered as the ship approached the signal source. "Visual contact," announced Ensign Park from the sensor station. "You're going to want to see this, Captain." The main screen flickered to life, showing a vessel unlike anything humans had ever imagined. It was beautiful in an alien way, with curved surfaces that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Crystalline sections caught and reflected the light of nearby stars. But something was clearly wrong with it. "It's caught in a gravity well," Commander Thompson observed. "That asteroid field is pulling it in slowly. Life signs?" Sarah asked. "Difficult to determine with their technology, but the ship appears to be occupied," Dr. Martinez reported. "I'm detecting what might be life support systems, though they're failing." Sarah made her decision. "Mr. Kim, take us in. Mr. O'Brien, prepare the tractor beam. We're going to pull them out." "Captain," Security Chief Walker interjected, "we don't know anything about these beings." "This could be a trap." "It could be," Sarah agreed. "But if someone is dying out there, we're going to try to save them. That's what humans do." The rescue operation took 3 hours. The alien ship was larger than the Endeavor and much more massive. Pulling it free from the gravity well required careful coordination between the engines and tractor beam. Several times the Endeavor's systems overloaded from the strain. "Hull stress is approaching critical levels," O'Brien reported. "Hold her together just a little longer," Sarah replied. "We're almost there." When the alien ship finally broke free from the asteroid field, both vessels were damaged. The Endeavor's tractor beam generators had overheated, and several hull plates had cracked from the stress. But they were both alive and safe. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez called out, "we're receiving a new transmission from the alien ship. Can you translate it?" "The computer has made some progress. The signal appears to be expressing gratitude." Dr. Martinez leaned forward eagerly. "Can we communicate with them?" Sarah nodded. "Open a channel. Let's try basic mathematical concepts first." What followed was humanity's first conversation with an alien species. The process was slow and frustrating, with both sides struggling to understand each other. But gradually a basic communication protocol emerged. The aliens called themselves Cathari. They were researchers studying stellar phenomena when their ship's navigation system failed, sending them into the asteroid field. They had been trapped for several days, their power running low and their life support failing. Observer Vishtal, the Cathari expedition leader, was the first alien to board a human ship. The moment would be remembered in both species' histories. Vishtal resembled a large, graceful bird with 4 arms and feathers that changed color based on emotional state. When the airlock opened and Vishtal saw the humans waiting to greet them, their feathers shifted to what Dr. Martinez would later learn indicated surprise and wonder. "Welcome aboard the Endeavor," Sarah said, hoping the translation software was working properly. Vishital's feathers shimmered through several colors before settling on a warm golden hue. "Your species? You risked your vessel to save strangers?" "Of course we did," Sarah replied, as if the question itself was strange. "You needed help." What happened next would change both species forever. The humans did not interrogate their guests or demand payment for the rescue. Instead, they offered food, medical attention, and comfortable quarters. Dr. Martinez spent hours learning about Cathari biology to make sure their guests were properly cared for. Engineer O'Brien worked with Cathari technicians to repair their ship's navigation system. Even off-duty crew members stopped by to meet the visitors, bringing small gifts and asking friendly questions about Cathari culture. Vishatal had studied dozens of species during their career as a xenobiologist. They had never encountered behavior like this. Most species were cautious with strangers, helpful only when it served their own interests. But humans seemed genuinely happy to meet them and eager to help without expecting anything in return. "Your ship is well armed," Vishtal observed during a tour of the Endeavor. Captain Chen nodded. "We hope we never need to use those weapons, but space can be dangerous. The weapon systems are unusual, very destructive, but with multiple redundancies. Why do you build such things if you hope never to use them?" Sarah paused, choosing her words carefully. "Humans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. We want to explore the galaxy in peace, but if someone threatens us or our friends, we will defend ourselves." Vishatal's feathers shifted to a color that indicated deep thought. The Cathari had studied human broadcasts for several months after detecting their first interstellar probe. They knew humans could be violent, but they were seeing something else now. These humans had risked their own safety to save strangers, then welcomed those strangers as honored guests. Yet their ship carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "Your species is confusing," Vishtal admitted. Sarah laughed, a sound that made Vishatal's feathers flutter with what they would later learn was delight. "We confuse ourselves sometimes too." The cultural exchange continued for several days while the Cathari ship was being repaired. Humans and Cathari shared meals, stories, and knowledge. The humans showed videos of Earth explaining their history and culture. The Cathari described their homeworld and their peaceful scientific civilization. But Vishtal noticed things that troubled them. Human entertainment was filled with stories of warfare and conflict. Their history was an endless series of battles and conquests. Even their sports involved mock combat or symbolic warfare. Yet these same humans cried when watching stories about animals being rescued. They risked their lives for complete strangers. They formed emotional bonds with anything that showed intelligence or need. Several crew members had already begun learning the Cathari language and asking about visiting their homeworld. "I do not understand your species," Vishtal confided to Dr. Martinez during one of their long conversations. "What do you mean? You are capable of great kindness and terrible violence. How can both exist in the same beings?" Dr. Martinez thought for a moment. "I guess it's because we believe some things are worth fighting for. We'll fight to protect the innocent, to defend our friends, to preserve what we think is right. But we don't fight for fun or conquest. Well, most of us don't anyway. And if someone threatened us, the Cathari, then they'd have to go through us first," Dr. Martinez said simply. "You're our friends now." Vishtal's feathers shifted through several colors rapidly. The concept of instant, unconditional friendship was alien to them. Most species required extensive negotiations and formal treaties before establishing even basic diplomatic relations. When the Cathari ship was finally repaired, Captain Chen refused all offers of payment or compensation. "The pleasure of meeting you was payment enough," she said. "We hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between our peoples." As the two ships prepared to part ways, Vishatal transmitted one final message to the Endeavor. "Captain Chen, your species has given us much to think about. We hope our peoples will meet again under happier circumstances." "So do we," Sarah replied. "Safe travels, my friend." The Cathari ship disappeared into hyperspace, leaving the Endeavor alone among the stars. But Vishatal carried with them detailed records of everything they had observed about humanity. The report they filed with the Galactic Council would turn the galaxy upside down. Vishatal described humans who risked everything to save strangers, then welcomed those strangers as family. But they also described weapon systems designed with a redundancy and lethality that suggested a species always preparing for total war. They had seen human crew members volunteer for dangerous spacewalks to help repair the Cathari ship, showing courage that bordered on recklessness. But they had also learned about human history, wars that lasted decades, weapons that could sterilize planets, and a concept called mutually assured destruction that had somehow prevented their species from destroying itself. "They are completely unpredictable," Vishatal wrote in their final report. They will die for strangers, but they prepare for war with the dedication of a species that expects to fight for its survival at any moment. They form instant emotional bonds with other species, but they possess the military capability to destroy entire civilizations. The report reached the Galactic Council 3 weeks later. Ambassador Zethkara read it with growing alarm. "This confirms our worst fears," she told the emergency session. "Humans are not just category red because of their potential for violence. They are category red because they are completely impossible to predict or control." General Korak studied the tactical assessments included in Vishtal's report. Their weapon systems are primitive but effective. More concerning is their tactical thinking. They approach warfare like no species we have studied. Look at this analysis of their ship's defensive systems. The holographic display showed the Endeavor's design. Every critical system had multiple backups. The ship could continue fighting even after suffering damage that would cripple vessels from more advanced civilizations. They build everything expecting it to be destroyed, Dr. Meltanto observed. Their technology assumes combat damage and plans for it. Because they never stop fighting, Zethkara said grimly. Observer Vishital noted that human crew members continued working on repairs, even when exhausted, injured, or facing impossible odds. They do not know how to give up. Ambassador Velith spoke up from her section of the chamber, but they also showed remarkable compassion. They saved the Cathari at considerable risk to themselves and expected nothing in return. Which makes them even more dangerous, General Korax replied. A purely aggressive species we can understand and counter. But a species that inspires loyalty and friendship while possessing massive destructive capability, they could destabilize the entire galactic order. The debate continued for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. Humanity's first contact with galactic civilization had only confirmed their category red status. They were too dangerous to ignore and too unpredictable to trust. But as the Council debated humanity's fate, Captain Chen was already planning the next mission. The Endeavor would return to Earth with news of successful first contact and detailed scans of Cathari technology. Within months, human shipyards would be producing vessels designed for interstellar exploration and equipped with even more advanced weapon systems. The galaxy had hoped to contain humanity within their home system. Instead, they had given them a reason to build bigger ships and venture further into space. Humans now knew they were not alone in the universe. They also knew there were civilizations out there advanced enough to build space stations between stars and powerful enough to make decisions about other species' fates. The next time humans and aliens met, it would not be a rescue mission. It would be first contact with the Galactic Council itself, and neither side was prepared for what would happen when an unstoppable force met an immovable object. But that meeting was still months away. For now, Captain Chen set course for home, carrying news that would change humanity forever. They were not alone. They had made friends among the stars, and somewhere out there, people were making decisions about humanity's future without asking humans what they thought about it. Humans had never responded well to being told what they could and could not do. The galaxy was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such heated debate. Representatives from across the galaxy argued in dozens of languages, while translators worked frantically to keep up. The issue dividing them was simple: what to do about humanity. General Korax of the Krex Empire stood at his full height, his massive armored form dominating his section of the chamber. His voice boomed through the translation system. "The evidence is clear," he declared. "Humans are expanding beyond their home system at an unprecedented rate. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected 17 human ships in the past month alone, all heading toward different star systems. They are not exploring. They are scouting for conquest." Ambassador Velith of the Peaceful Worlds Coalition shook her flower-like head. "General, you are misinterpreting their actions. The Cathari report clearly states that humans rescued them without any thought of personal gain. These are explorers, not conquerors. Explorers who carry enough firepower to level cities," General Korax replied. "Every human ship we have observed is heavily armed. No peaceful species needs such weapons for exploration." Dr. Meltanto chimed her crystalline form thoughtfully. "I have been analyzing the human data streams intercepted by our monitoring stations. Their rate of technological advancement continues to accelerate. They have achieved controlled nuclear fusion on an industrial scale. They are terraforming 3 different worlds in their home system simultaneously. Most disturbing of all, they have begun constructing what appears to be a massive space-based manufacturing facility. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. How massive? Asked Commissioner Yalth of the Trade Federation. Preliminary scans suggest it will be larger than most planetary cities when completed. The construction method is unusual. Instead of building from prefabricated components, they are using self-replicating construction drones that harvest raw materials from asteroids and transform them into building materials on site. Ambassador Zethkara activated the central holographic display, showing images captured by long-range surveillance drones. The human construction site was a marvel of engineering and logistics. Thousands of small drones swarmed over a growing framework of metal and ceramic, adding new sections at an incredible pace. At current construction rates, this facility will be operational within 6 months, she reported. Our analysts estimate it will be capable of producing 100 starships per month. Impossible, General Korak stated. No species can scale production that quickly without outside assistance. Humans are not following standard development patterns, Dr. Meltanto replied. They share technological advances freely across their entire species. When one human discovers an improvement, millions of others immediately begin implementing and refining it. They have no corporate secrets, no national monopolies on critical technologies. Their entire species works together like a single organism. Speaker Gith of the collective mind, whose species actually functioned as a hive mind, found this concept disturbing. Individual consciousness cannot achieve true collective action. There must be competition between their factions. There is, Zethkara confirmed. But they compete to cooperate more effectively. Human corporations compete to produce better products for their customers. Human nations compete to provide better lives for their citizens. Human scientists compete to make discoveries that benefit everyone. It is unlike any social structure we have studied. The debate was interrupted by an urgent alert from the monitoring stations. A new transmission had been intercepted from the human construction facility. Play it, Zethkara ordered. The voice that filled the chamber was calm and professional, speaking in what the translators identified as English, the most common human language. Mars orbital platform to all human vessels. We have successfully tested the new fusion drive system. Performance exceeds specifications by 12%. Technical specifications are being uploaded to the global database. All shipyards are cleared to begin immediate implementation. The transmission continued with detailed technical data about propulsion systems, power generation, and life support improvements. But what shocked the council representatives was not the technology itself, but how freely it was shared. They are broadcasting military specifications to anyone listening, General Korax observed. Either they are incredibly naive or they are sending a message. I believe it is both, Ambassador Velith said quietly. They are naive enough to share their technology freely because they assume other species are as cooperative as they are. But they are also sending a message that they are not afraid of anyone learning about their capabilities. Another alert interrupted the discussion. This time it was from a monitoring station near the edge of human space. Priority transmission from Station Echo 7, the communications officer announced. They report multiple human vessels approaching the galactic border. The chamber erupted in concerned chatter. The galactic border was an unofficial boundary that most developing species respected. Crossing it was considered an act of potential aggression. How many ships? General Korax demanded. 12 vessels detected so far, but more are arriving. They appear to be scientific survey ships, but they are heavily armed and escorted by what appear to be military vessels. Zethkara studied the incoming data. They are not attacking anything. The ships are conducting detailed scans of star systems and astronomical phenomena, but their escort formations are distinctly military in nature. They are probing our defenses, General Korax concluded, testing our response to their presence. Or they are exploring and taking reasonable precautions in unknown space, Ambassador Velith countered. The argument was interrupted by yet another alert. This one was from the Ketteri homeworld. The Ketteri Council requests an emergency session, the communications officer reported. They have received a diplomatic transmission from humanity. A diplomatic transmission? Zethkara asked. What kind of message? They are asking for formal diplomatic relations and proposing a cultural exchange program. They want to establish an embassy on the Cathari homeworld and invite Cathari representatives to visit Earth. The council chamber fell silent. This was completely unprecedented. No developing species had ever attempted to establish formal diplomatic relations with galactic civilization. Most species waited centuries after achieving interstellar travel before making such overtures. How did they know how to contact the Cathari government? Dr. Meltanto asked, unknown. But the message demonstrates understanding of Cathari governmental structure and diplomatic protocols. Somehow they learned our procedures and are following them correctly. General Corax's expression grew darker. They have infiltrated our communication networks. This proves they are gathering intelligence for military purposes, or they are naturally gifted diplomats who learned our protocols by observing the rescue mission, Ambassador Velith suggested. The debate was reaching a boiling point when scanner technician Vector burst into the chamber without authorization. The young Altarian was supposed to be monitoring deep space sensors, not attending council sessions. "Forgive the intrusion," Vector gasped, his breathing apparatus working overtime, "but you need to see this immediately." Zethkara was about to reprimand the technician when she saw the data pad in his hands. The readings on the screen made her blood run cold. "Show everyone," she ordered. The central holographic display activated, showing a real-time scan of the Sol system. What they saw defied belief. Mars now had 3 moons instead of 2. The third moon was the massive construction facility they had been monitoring, but it had grown far beyond their projections. It was now large enough to have its own gravitational field, and ships were moving around it in organized formations like a busy spaceport. But that was not the most shocking discovery. "Are those what I think they are?" Commissioner Yalth whispered. "Confirmed," Vector replied. "The humans have built a ring of defensive platforms around their entire star system. 24 battle stations, each one larger than most species' capital ships." "When did they build those?" General Corax demanded. "That is the disturbing part," Vector said. "Our monitoring stations show no evidence of construction. These platforms appeared over the past 72 hours, as if they were assembled from prefabricated components and moved into position simultaneously." Dr. Meltanto's chiming reached a crescendo of alarm. "They built an entire defensive network in secret, then activated it all at once. The level of coordination required is staggering." "And the message is clear," General Corax added grimly. "They know we are watching them, and they want us to know they are ready for war." Ambassador Velith studied the defensive platforms more closely. "Look at their positioning. They are not arranged for offensive operations. This is a purely defensive formation, designed to protect their home system from attack, or to serve as a staging area for offensive operations," General Corax countered. The argument was becoming circular when another priority alert interrupted them. This one was from the Hegemony border fleet. "Admiral Thane reports that human vessels have approached the Hegemony border and are requesting permission to conduct peaceful surveys. They are offering to share all scientific data gathered in exchange for safe passage." "It is a trick," General Corax declared. "They are testing our defenses under the pretense of scientific exploration. Or they are genuinely interested in peaceful contact," Ambassador Velith replied. Zethkara called for order as the debate threatened to spiral out of control. "We need to make a decision. The humans are expanding rapidly, and they are attempting to make contact with multiple galactic civilizations simultaneously. We cannot ignore them any longer. I propose immediate military action," General Corax stated. "We assemble a fleet and present them with an ultimatum: remain in their home system or face pacification." "I strongly oppose that course of action," Ambassador Velith replied. "The Cathari report indicates that humans respond to friendship with friendship, but they also respond to threats with overwhelming violence. Threatening them could start a war we are not prepared to fight." "What war?" General Corax laughed. "They are barely a century into their technological development. Our ships are thousands of years more advanced." Dr. Meltanto's chiming became urgent. "General, I must point out that human weapons technology does not follow conventional development patterns. They appear to be designed specifically for warfare against technologically superior opponents." She activated a detailed analysis of human military technology observed during the Cathari rescue mission. Their weapons are simple but effective. More importantly, they are designed to function even after massive damage. Most galactic species build elegant, efficient systems that fail completely when damaged. Humans build redundant, robust systems that continue functioning even when 90% destroyed. Primitive engineering, General Corax dismissed. No, Dr. Meltanto corrected. Practical engineering. They assume their equipment will be damaged and plan accordingly. Look at their ship designs, multiple engine systems, redundant life support, independent weapon batteries. A human ship can lose half its components and still fight effectively. Ambassador Veleth accessed additional data from the surveillance reports. There is something else we need to consider. Human psychology does not match any known patterns. Most species fight until the cost exceeds the potential benefit, then surrender or withdraw. Humans fight until they win or die. All species claim to fight to the death, General Corax scoffed. But humans actually do it, Veleth replied. Their history is filled with examples of humans fighting against impossible odds, accepting massive casualties and never surrendering. They have a concept called Pyrrhic victory that describes winning a battle at such great cost that it might as well be a defeat. Most species avoid such outcomes. Humans embrace them if the alternative is surrender. The council chamber fell quiet as representatives considered the implications. Fighting an enemy that would rather die than surrender was a prospect that no galactic species had faced in recorded history. What do you propose? Zethkara asked. Ambassador Veleth looked around the chamber. I propose we do something unprecedented. I propose we invite them to join galactic civilization as equals. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Representatives shouted in dozens of languages while translators struggled to keep up. The idea of granting full galactic citizenship to a species less than a century into space travel was revolutionary. Impossible, General Corax roared. They have not earned the right to join our civilization. Have they not? Veleth replied calmly. They have achieved faster than light travel. They have demonstrated the ability to terraform worlds. They have built defensive systems that rival our own military installations. Most importantly, they have shown they can cooperate with other species despite having no prior contact with galactic civilization. They are too dangerous, Speaker Gith objected. Their unpredictability makes them unsuitable for galactic integration. Their unpredictability makes them valuable, Veleth countered. We have faced the same challenges and threats for millennia because we all think in similar ways. Humans think differently. They might find solutions to problems we cannot solve. The debate continued for hours, but no consensus emerged. The galaxy was divided. Some species wanted to destroy humanity before they became a threat. Others wanted to welcome them as allies, and still others wanted to wait and see what humans would do next. But while the council debated, humans were making their own decisions. The defensive platforms around Sol were not just defensive installations. They were also massive sensor arrays, capable of detecting and analyzing transmissions across interstellar distances. Humans had been listening to galactic communications for months. They knew about the Galactic Council. They knew about the Category Red designation. They knew that some species wanted to destroy them while others wanted to befriend them. And they were preparing accordingly. The galaxy had wanted to make decisions about humanity's future without consulting humans. But humans had never been good at letting other people make decisions for them. The next phase of contact between humans and galactic civilization would not be a diplomatic exchange or a cultural mission. It would be a confrontation that would determine whether humans would join galactic civilization as equals, be driven back to their home system as prisoners, or fight their way to membership as conquerors. The choice had been offered to the galaxy. Soon humans would make their own choice, and the galaxy would have to live with the consequences. Admiral Thane of the Krek's Second Armada stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue-green world of Sol 3 grow larger on the main screen. Behind him, 47 warships of the Hegemony fleet maintained perfect formation. Each vessel was a masterpiece of military engineering, equipped with weapons that could reduce planets to molten rock and shields that could withstand the fury of stars. The Admiral felt confident as he reviewed the tactical situation. The humans had surprised everyone by building those defensive platforms around their system. But Krek's intelligence estimated they were no match for Hegemony technology. The platforms were large and well-armed by primitive standards, but they lacked the sophisticated targeting systems and energy shields that made Hegemony warships nearly invincible. Admiral, called Captain Vorthak from the communication station, We are receiving multiple transmission requests from the human defensive platforms. Ignore them, Thane replied coldly. We did not come here to negotiate. The plan was simple and had worked against dozens of other species. The hegemony fleet would arrive at the edge of the human system and deliver an ultimatum: cease all expansion beyond their home system or face immediate pacification. Most species surrendered when faced with overwhelming military superiority. Those that did not were quickly convinced by a demonstration of hegemony firepower. Humans would be no different. They were primitives who had barely learned to travel between stars. Their weapons were crude, their ships were slow, and their tactics were non-existent. The Admiral expected this mission to be over within hours. But as the hegemony fleet approached the defensive platforms, something unexpected happened. Instead of powering up weapons or raising shields, the platforms simply waited. Their weapon systems remained inactive. Their sensors operated in passive mode, and their communication arrays continued transmitting requests for dialogue. They are not responding to our presence as a threat, observed Captain Zathara, Thane's tactical officer. Most species show signs of panic or aggressive posturing when faced with our fleet. Because they do not yet understand what they face, Thane replied. Open a channel to the human command structure. It is time to deliver our message. The communication system crackled to life, and Admiral Thane began broadcasting on all human frequencies simultaneously. I am Admiral Thane of the Krek's Second Armada, speaking for the Galactic Hegemony. The species known as humans has been designated a threat to galactic stability. You have 48 hours to dismantle your interstellar capabilities and confine your civilization to your homeworld. Failure to comply will result in the pacification of your entire species. The response came faster than expected. A calm, professional voice replied in accented but clear galactic standard. This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Sol Defense Fleet, responding for the United Earth Government. Admiral Thane, you are in violation of interstellar law by bringing an armed fleet into our sovereign space without permission. You have 10 minutes to withdraw beyond our system boundary, or you will be considered hostile. Admiral Thane was so surprised that he laughed. The idea of primitives threatening his fleet was absurd. Human Admiral, he replied, you face 48 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Your primitive weapons cannot harm us, and your crude shields cannot protect you. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to survive under hegemony supervision. Admiral Thane, came the reply. Let me explain something to you. You came to our home to threaten our children. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was thinking we would surrender to bullies. We have a saying on Earth, come and take it. We suggest you look up the historical context. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Thane staring at his communications officer in disbelief. Did they just refuse our ultimatum? He asked. Yes, sir, Captain Vorthak replied. They also appear to be powering up their weapon systems. On the tactical display, the human defensive platforms began to glow with energy signatures. But something was wrong with the readings. The power levels were far higher than Krek's intelligence had predicted. Those platforms are drawing more energy than our estimates suggested possible, Captain Zathara reported. Either our intelligence was faulty, or the humans have made significant improvements since our last scans. Admiral Thane dismissed the concern. Primitive technology regardless of power levels. Begin the pacification protocol. Target the largest platform first. One demonstration of our superiority should convince them to surrender. The Krek's flagship fired a single plasma bolt at the nearest human platform. The weapon was set to low power, intended to disable rather than destroy. Against most species' technology, it would have overloaded shields and shut down major systems. The plasma bolt struck the platform's shields and dissipated harmlessly. Impossible, Captain Zathara breathed. That bolt should have penetrated their defenses easily. Increase power and fire again, Thane ordered. This time the plasma bolt was set to full combat strength. It struck the platform with enough force to vaporize a small moon. The human shields flared brightly but held. Sir, called the sensor operator, the human platforms are returning fire. The tactical display showed dozens of energy beams lancing out from the defensive platforms. But these were not the crude weapons Admiral Thane had expected. They moved at near light speed and struck with devastating accuracy. The first salvo hit the hegemony fleet before anyone could react. 3 ships lost their shields completely. 2 more suffered significant hull damage, and the flagship's port weapons array exploded in a shower of sparks. "Evasive maneuvers," Thane shouted. "How are they penetrating our shields?" "Unknown, sir," Captain Zathara replied while studying her instruments frantically. "Their weapons appear to be tuned specifically to disrupt our shield frequencies." What Admiral Thane did not know was that humans had been analyzing hegemony technology for months. The defensive platforms around Sol were equipped with sensors capable of detailed spectroscopic analysis of any ship's energy signatures. The moment the Krex fleet had entered the system, human computers had begun calculating the exact frequencies needed to penetrate their shields. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from the human admiral." "Admiral Thane," came Admiral Vasquez's voice. "You fired on our defensive installations. That constitutes an act of war. We are now responding accordingly. You have one opportunity to withdraw your forces and negotiate. Otherwise, we will defend our home." Admiral Thane's pride would not allow retreat in the face of primitive resistance. "All ships attack formation. We will show these primitives the price of defying the hegemony." What followed was unlike any battle in galactic military history. The hegemony fleet advanced in perfect formation, firing coordinated salvos designed to overwhelm enemy defenses through superior firepower. It was a tactic that had worked against every opponent they had ever faced. But humans did not fight like any opponent they had ever faced. Instead of maintaining defensive positions, human ships began appearing throughout the battle zone. They came from behind asteroids, from the shadows of planets, and from directions that sensors had shown to be empty moments before. The human fleet was smaller than intelligence had suggested, but they fought with tactics that defied conventional military logic. Human ships performed ramming attacks against vessels 10 times their size. When the destroyer Montreal lost its main engines, Captain Park deliberately crashed his ship into the Krex heavy cruiser Dominator, while his crew evacuated in escape pods, singing their planetary anthem over open communication channels. "They are insane," Captain Vorthak observed as he watched human fighters dive-bomb hegemony capital ships with suicidal determination. "No," Admiral Thane replied grimly. "They are fearless. There is a difference. The human tactics made no sense by galactic standards. They sacrificed valuable ships to achieve minor tactical advantages. They accepted horrific casualty rates to protect non-essential targets. They used their own vessels as weapons when their conventional armaments failed, but somehow it was working." "Sir," Captain Zathara reported, "we have lost 14 ships. The humans have lost 8, but their remaining vessels are still fighting at full effectiveness. How is that possible? They should be demoralized by their losses." "Sir, I am monitoring their communications. They are not demoralized. If anything, they seem to be fighting harder." "Admiral," Thane listened to the intercepted human transmissions and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the bridge's life support systems. "This is Captain Williams of the Beijing. The Montreal is down, but they took a heavy cruiser with them. Let's make sure their sacrifice counts. All ships focus fire on the flagship." "Roger that, Beijing. This is Captain O'Brien of the Dublin. We're down to maneuvering thrusters only, but our weapons are still online. We'll draw their fire while you make your attack run." "Negative, Dublin. Get your crew to the escape pods. We'll handle this." "Sorry, Beijing, but we're not leaving the party early. Besides, my grandmother always said the Irish were too stubborn to know when to quit." The human ships continued fighting even when victory was impossible. Ships with catastrophic hull breaches maintained fire control. Crews with no hope of survival continued operating their weapons until their life support failed. Individual human pilots rammed their fighters into hegemony vessels, while broadcasting final messages to their families. But most disturbing of all, the humans were learning. "Sir," Captain Zathara called out urgently, "the human weapons are becoming more effective. They are adapting their frequencies to match our shield modifications." Admiral Thane studied the tactical display in growing alarm. Every time his fleet modified their defenses, human weapons adapted within minutes. It was as if the entire human fleet was sharing information instantaneously and implementing improvements in real time. "How are they coordinating so effectively?" "We are jamming their communications." "Unknown, sir, but their tactical coordination is improving throughout the battle." What the Admiral did not realize was that human ships were linked through quantum communication systems that operated outside normal electromagnetic frequencies. Every ship in the fleet shared sensor data, tactical analysis, and combat modifications instantly. When one human captain discovered an effective attack pattern, every other ship in the fleet knew about it within seconds. The battle raged for 6 hours. By the end, the hegemony fleet had lost 31 ships while the humans had lost 19. But Admiral Thane's remaining vessels were badly damaged, their crews exhausted, and their ammunition running low. The human ships, while fewer in number, continued fighting with undiminished intensity. "Admiral," Captain Vorthak said quietly, "I recommend we withdraw while we still can." Admiral Thane stared at the tactical display, trying to understand how his superior fleet had been fought to a standstill by primitive barbarians. But what truly shook him was not the losses his fleet had suffered. It was the realization that the humans were still holding back. Throughout the battle, the massive defensive platforms around Sol had remained largely inactive. They had provided cover for human ships and targeted specific hegemony vessels, but they had not unleashed their full firepower. Admiral Thane had the sinking feeling that the humans had been testing his fleet's capabilities, while minimizing their own losses. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted his thoughts, "we are receiving another transmission from Admiral Vasquez." "Admiral Thane," came the familiar voice, "you have lost the majority of your fleet attacking our home system. Your remaining ships are damaged and low on supplies. I am prepared to allow you to withdraw with your surviving personnel, but only if you agree to carry a message back to your superiors." Admiral Thane wanted to refuse, but he had no choice. His fleet was defeated, his reputation was ruined, and his surviving crews were looking to him to get them home alive. "What message?" he asked. "Tell your Galactic Council that humanity is no longer content to be observers in galactic affairs. We want a seat at the table where decisions are made about interstellar law and galactic civilization. We are prepared to earn that seat through friendship or force. The choice is theirs. And if they refuse, then they will discover what happens when you threaten our family. Every species in the galaxy is now under our protection, whether they want it or not. Any attack on galactic civilians will be considered an attack on humanity." Admiral Thane ended the transmission and gave the order to withdraw. As his battered fleet limped toward the edge of the Sol system, he tried to compose the report he would have to deliver to the Hegemony Council. How could he explain that a fleet of the most advanced warships in the galaxy had been defeated by primitives who had barely learned to travel between stars? How could he describe tactics that made no military sense but had somehow proven devastatingly effective? Most importantly, how could he convince his superiors that humanity represented a threat unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced? The humans had not just won a military victory. They had demonstrated that their entire civilization was willing to fight and die to protect their independence. They had shown tactical flexibility that allowed them to adapt and improve during combat, and they had served notice that they would no longer accept being excluded from galactic affairs. As the Hegemony fleet disappeared into hyperspace, Admiral Vasquez stood on the bridge of her flagship, surveying the aftermath of humanity's first interstellar war. "Casualties?" she asked. 19 ships lost, 4,300 personnel killed in action, her aide reported. "But we saved 1,200 crew members from disabled vessels, and our shipyards can replace the lost ships within 6 months." Admiral Vasquez nodded grimly. Every death weighed on her, but she knew the alternative would have been the enslavement or extinction of the entire human race. "Send a message to Earth Command," she ordered. "The galaxy now knows that humanity will not submit to threats. They also know that we are willing to die for our freedom and the freedom of others. The question now is whether they want us as allies or enemies." The Battle of Sol was over, but the war for humanity's place in galactic civilization was just beginning, and somewhere in the depths of space, alien civilizations that had never heard of humans before were receiving reports of a species that had fought one of the galaxy's most powerful fleets to a standstill. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their tactics. It was their absolute refusal to surrender, no matter what the odds. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 3 days after Admiral Thane's broken fleet limped back to hegemony space. Representatives from across the galaxy filled the chamber, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, chimes, and translated speech. Ambassador Zethkara stood at the center of the circle, her forearms moving in agitated gestures as she addressed the assembly. The reports from the Battle of Sol have been confirmed by multiple sources, she announced. The Krek Second Armada, one of the most powerful military forces in galactic history, suffered 60% casualties against a species that had never fought a space battle before. General Corax, his massive armored form bearing visible scars from the battle, spoke with a voice that carried none of his former confidence. I was wrong, he admitted, the words seeming to cause him physical pain. Humans do not fight like any species we have studied. They do not retreat when outnumbered. They do not surrender when defeat is certain. They adapt their tactics during combat faster than our computers can analyze their changes. The chamber fell silent. General Corax had built his reputation on understanding military strategy better than anyone in the galaxy. His admission that humans fought beyond his comprehension sent shockwaves through the assembly. Dr. Meltanto chimed urgently from her section of the chamber. The tactical reports are even more disturbing than the casualty figures. Human prisoners taken during the battle have been studied by our xenopsychologists. Their behavior patterns are unlike anything in our databases, explained, ordered Speaker Gith of the Collective Mind. Human prisoners do not exhibit the typical responses we expect from captured combatants. They show no fear of their captors, no despair at their situation, and no desire to cooperate in exchange for better treatment. Instead, they study their captors, learn their weaknesses, and attempt to escape at every opportunity. That is not unusual behavior for military personnel, observed Commissioner Yalth. It is when the prisoners include civilian researchers, medical personnel, and engineering crews, Dr. Meltanto replied. Every human we captured, regardless of their role in the battle, exhibited the same patterns: curiosity about our technology, determination to escape, and complete loyalty to their species. Ambassador Veleth spoke up from her section of the chamber. What happened to the human prisoners? General Corax shifted uncomfortably. They were released as part of the withdrawal agreement. Released? Several representatives asked simultaneously. Admiral Vasquez demanded the return of all human personnel as a condition of allowing our fleet to withdraw safely. Given our tactical situation, we had no choice but to comply. The implications hung heavy in the chamber. The hegemony, the most feared military power in the galaxy, had been forced to negotiate with primitives for safe passage from a battle zone. There is more, Zethkara continued grimly. In the weeks since the battle, human behavior has become even more concerning. Instead of retreating to their home system to recover from their losses, they have accelerated their expansion into galactic space. The central holographic display activated, showing a map of local space. Red dots indicated human ship movements over the past month. The pattern was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. They are not expanding randomly, Dr. Meltanto observed. They are moving toward systems containing other species. Conquest, General Corax stated flatly. They tasted victory against us and now they seek to expand their empire. No, Ambassador Veleth contradicted. Look at their approach patterns. They are not moving in military formations. These appear to be diplomatic and scientific missions. With heavy military escorts, General Corax pointed out. After being attacked by our fleet, can you blame them for taking precautions? The debate was interrupted by an urgent alert from the communications center. Priority transmission from the Cathari homeworld, the operator announced. Ambassador Vishatal requests immediate council attention. Put them through, Zethkara ordered. The familiar voice of Observer Vishtal filled the chamber, but there was an excitement in their tone that had not been present during their previous reports. Honored council members, I am transmitting from the Cathari capital, where we are currently hosting the first official human diplomatic mission to our world. The delegation is led by Dr. Sarah Chen, the former captain of the human vessel that rescued our research team. The council representatives exchanged glances. The humans were moving faster than anyone had predicted. What do they want? General Corax asked bluntly. They have proposed a formal alliance between humanity and the Cathari Republic. In exchange for technology sharing and mutual defense agreements, they are offering to share their recent discoveries in faster-than-light propulsion, energy generation, and materials science. Impossible, Commissioner Yalth protested. No species shares advanced technology with others. It provides too much competitive advantage. The humans appear to view technological advancement differently than most species, Vishtal replied. They believe that sharing knowledge accelerates progress for everyone. Dr. Chen explained that human civilization advances fastest when all humans have access to the same information and tools. Dr. Meltanto's chiming reached a crescendo. They are applying their intraspecies cooperation model to interspecies relations. If successful, they could create a technological alliance that advances faster than any single species could achieve alone. What did the Cathari Council decide? Zethkara asked. We voted unanimously to accept the human proposal, Vishtal replied. The potential benefits are too great to ignore. But there is something else the council needs to know. The pause that followed made everyone in the chamber lean forward. The humans did not come alone. Their diplomatic mission includes representatives from 12 other species, all of whom they have made contact with since the Battle of Sol. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions in dozens of languages while translators struggled to keep up. 12 species? Zethkara asked when order was restored. In 3 weeks? Confirmed. The humans have established diplomatic relations with the Altarians, the Zentari, the Morphic Collective, and 9 other civilizations. They are proposing the formation of what they call the Galactic Cooperation Initiative. And, as human exploration fleets prepared to venture beyond the galactic rim in search of new civilizations to befriend and protect, the old powers of the galaxy faced a choice that would define the next 1,000 years of interstellar history. They could join humanity's vision of a cooperative, galactic community where strength came from unity and prosperity came from sharing, or they could fight against it and discover why a species of persistence predators had never lost a war they were determined to win. The galaxy had designated humanity Category Red, believing they were labeling them as the ultimate threat. They had been right, but the threat was not to galactic civilization itself. The threat was to anyone who believed that the strong should prey upon the weak, that knowledge should be hoarded for advantage, or that some species were more worthy of freedom and dignity than others. Humanity had come to the stars not as conquerors, but as guardians, and they had made it clear that they would guard the galaxy from anyone who threatened the peace and prosperity of their ever-growing family. The age of human dominance had begun not through conquest, but through an irresistible offer. Join us, and we will make you stronger than you ever dreamed possible. Most of the galaxy was learning that when humans made such an offer, they meant every word of it. The few who rejected it were about to learn what happened when you threatened something humans had decided to protect. These species have agreed, Ambassador Velith asked, all of them. The humans offer something no other species has provided: unconditional mutual defense agreements. They have pledged to protect every member of their alliance from external threats regardless of the cost to themselves. General Korax stood up abruptly. This is a military alliance disguised as a diplomatic initiative. They are building a coalition to challenge hegemony authority. Perhaps, Vishtal replied, but if so, it is unlike any military alliance in galactic history. The humans are sharing their most advanced technology with species they met weeks ago. They are providing military protection to civilizations that cannot offer anything valuable in return. They are behaving as if every species in the galaxy is part of their extended family. The implications were staggering. If humans continued expanding their alliance at this rate, they would soon command the loyalty of dozens of species. Combined with their demonstrated military capabilities, they could become the dominant power in the galaxy within a generation. What do they ultimately want? Speaker Gith asked. According to Dr. Chen, they want to be included in galactic governance. They believe that decisions affecting interstellar civilization should be made by representatives of all species, not just the traditional powers. Unacceptable, General Korax declared. Galactic law and order have been maintained for millennia by experienced civilizations. Primitives cannot be allowed to influence policy. With respect, General, Vishatal replied, the humans no longer qualify as primitives. Their technological advancement in the past month has been extraordinary. They appear to have solved several engineering problems that have puzzled galactic scientists for centuries. Dr. Meltanto accessed the technical data streaming from the Kethari system. Confirmed. Human faster-than-light technology now exceeds our own efficiency by 30%. Their energy generation systems are producing power outputs we thought impossible. Most concerning of all, their manufacturing capabilities are expanding exponentially. How is that possible? Commissioner Yalth demanded. They have developed self-replicating construction systems that can build entire industrial complexes from raw materials in a matter of days. Combined with their information-sharing culture, they can implement new technologies across their entire civilization almost instantly. The chamber fell silent as representatives absorbed the implications. They are no longer the same species we designated Category Red, Zethkara observed quietly. In less than a year, they have evolved from a contained planetary civilization to a galactic superpower. And they are still expanding, Ambassador Velith added. If current trends continue, they will contact every species in the galaxy within 5 years. General Korax studied the tactical projections with growing alarm. By that time, their alliance could include hundreds of species. Combined with their military capabilities and industrial capacity, they would be unstoppable. Perhaps that is the point, Ambassador Velith suggested. Perhaps humans are not building an empire. Perhaps they are building something entirely new. A galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of domination. Or perhaps they are building the most sophisticated conquest strategy in galactic history. General Korax countered. The debate continued for hours, but no consensus emerged. The galaxy was faced with a situation none of them had anticipated. A species that grew stronger by making others stronger, that gained power by sharing power, and that achieved dominance through service. Meanwhile, in systems across the galaxy, human diplomats were making first contact with species that had never encountered the Galactic Council. They offered friendship, protection, and technological advancement in exchange for cooperation and mutual defense agreements. Most species accepted. The final report that reached the Galactic Council came from the frontier monitoring stations. Human ships had been detected at the edge of galactic space, moving toward unexplored regions where new species might be developing. They are not content with the species we know about, Dr. Meltanto observed. They are seeking out civilizations that have not yet achieved interstellar travel, to conquer them before they can resist, General Korax concluded. To protect them from exploitation, Ambassador Velith countered. The humans have established a clear pattern. They offer membership in their alliance to any species willing to cooperate, and they protect member species from external threats. Zethkara called for the final vote. The evidence is clear. Humanity represents a fundamental change in galactic civilization. They are either our greatest hope for peace and prosperity, or our greatest threat to established order. The question before us is simple. Do we attempt to integrate them into existing galactic structures, or do we treat them as an existential threat that must be contained? The vote was closer than anyone had expected. The Peaceful Worlds Coalition and their allies voted for integration. The hegemony and the traditional powers voted for containment. The deciding votes came from the smaller species, many of whom had already been contacted by human diplomats. They voted for integration. By a margin of 7 votes, the Galactic Council formally recognizes humanity and their alliance as a legitimate governmental entity within galactic civilization, Zethkara announced. All council members are encouraged to establish diplomatic relations with human representatives. General Korax stood to address the chamber one final time. You have made a grave mistake. We designated them Category Red because they were unpredictable and dangerous. Now you are granting them equal status in galactic governance. Mark my words. Within a generation, humans will not be seeking seats at our table. They will be the table. As representatives filed out of the chamber, none of them noticed the small listening device hidden among the communication arrays. The device had been placed there weeks earlier by a human infiltrator who had posed as a maintenance worker. Every word of the council session had been transmitted to human intelligence services in real time. Her office aboard the Mars orbital platform, Admiral Vasquez reviewed the transcript of the council session with satisfaction. The galaxy had finally recognized humanity as an equal player in interstellar affairs. What are your orders, Admiral? Asked her aide. Continue expanding our alliance, keep making contact with new species, and begin construction of the deep space exploration fleet. Now that we have a seat at the galactic table, it's time to find out who else might want to join us. And if the hegemony attempts to interfere, Admiral Vasquez smiled and her aide was reminded of humanity's predatory ancestry. Then they will learn why humans are called apex predators. We protect our pack, And now our pack includes anyone who wants our friendship. Anyone who threatens our friends threatens us. As human ships spread across the galaxy, carrying diplomats, scientists, and offers of alliance, the galaxy began to change in ways no one had predicted. Species that had been enemies for millennia found themselves cooperating through human mediation. Technologies that had been hoarded for competitive advantage were shared freely through human networks. Conflicts that had raged for centuries were resolved through human diplomatic intervention. The galaxy was discovering that humans were not conquerors or destroyers. They were integrators and builders. They did not seek to dominate other species. They sought to make other species stronger. But they also discovered that humans meant what they said about protecting their friends. When raiders attacked a Cathari colony, human warships arrived within hours and eliminated the threat with devastating efficiency. When the Zentari faced famine due to crop failures, human supply ships delivered enough food to feed their entire population for a year. And when the hegemony attempted to pressure smaller species into rejecting human alliance offers, they found themselves facing the combined fleets of dozens of species united under human leadership. The galaxy had labeled humanity Category Red because they were the ultimate threat level, but they had been wrong about the nature of that threat. Humans were not the ultimate threat to galactic civilization. They were the ultimate evolution of galactic civilization, and